Hey Dreamers, this is Jade. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, and we are continuing on with my journey through the One Piece anime that I am journaling in my One Piece weeks that I got from Hobonichi this year. Now I will go ahead and preface this, I forgot to say it in the last video and I apologize, that there will probably be spoilers because I don't know how to talk about this show in its entirety, even though it's still like base level getting into it without spoiling some things. So yeah, anyway, so the Straw Hats have just left Little Garden after defeating the foes there, and they are on their way to take Vivi to Alabasta when Nami falls sick. So they definitely need to find a doctor for her. Before they can get to the place where they will land for a doctor, they meet this guy who is a king masquerading as a pirate. His name is Wapol. I think he ate the munch fruit, some kind of fruit that allows him to eat things, because he gets on the ship and starts eating ship. And the Straw Hats are not having it. And Luffy just boots his ass off into the oblivion. And continues on so they can find Nami a doctor. They do stop off at this place called Drum Island. It is a winter island. I do believe this is the first winter island they have encountered. And so yeah, they get there and the people are not welcoming because they've had some trouble with pirates before. But after explaining the situation, they let them off and tell them, okay, we do have a doctor, but there's only one doctor in the area, and she's actually a witch and she lives up on that mountain there. Huge mountain, okay? The mountain is ridiculously huge and long or whatever. Anyway, Sanji and Luffy take on the task of getting Nami up that mountain to the doctor. And they told them to watch out for these lopins, which are these huge rabbits or whatever. And so at first they're just kind of dodging these rabbits or whatever, and finally they get a little more aggressive or whatever. And Sanji's like, okay, you don't fight because you have Nami on your back and she will feel everything. I'll fight them, you dodge. And so that's what they try to do to get Nami up this hill. Anyway, Luffy continues on. Sanji kind of stays back to deal with the rabbits, and eventually he gets injured as well. So Luffy ends up having to carry both him and Nami up that mountain to the doctor. They finally reach the doctor, and it's so cute. Nami wakes up in a bed, and she sees this cute little furball thing just standing there mixing up medicines and stuff. And when she starts talking to him, he realizes, hey, somebody is talking to me, and realizes that Nami is awake and can see him and everything like that. And then we have entering Chopper, Tony Chopper. One of my favorite Straw Hats. I absolutely love him. He is the cutest thing ever in life. And so, yeah, the way he hides, you see how he's hiding from her? That's the way he hides. It's like all of his body is visible and half of his face, and she's like, I think you have it backwards. And so then he finally moves away. It's the cutest thing ever. But anyway, so she meets Chopper, who is one of the doctors taking care of her and whatever. And Chopper's backstory is so tragic, and like literally probably the first one I wanted to dive through the TV and hurt somebody. Okay, Chopper is a cute little reindeer with a blue nose who has been outcast by everybody because he ended up eating a human fruit. So there are different types of devil fruits. I can't remember the other ones yet and exactly what they do, but the Zoan type either gives animals the abilities of humans, like walking and talking or whatever, or it gives humans animalistic abilities, depending on which one ate which or whatever. So he ate the human fruit, so he was kind of outcasted already from his reindeer pack because he had a blue nose, because that was different. And then so he went to the village to try to make friends as like more of a human, but still he's still a reindeer. And they shot at him and was like, oh, that's a Yeti. And they shot at him, and I was like, I want to hurt these people so bad right now. And so he is terrified of both the reindeer and the people, whatever. And he meets Dr. Hiralek in all of this and thinks that he's coming after him. And Dr. Hiralek is like, look, listen, I'm good. I'm not here to hurt you. Like, just to gain his trust, he ends up getting completely naked. He's like, I don't have any guns or anything like that. So whatever. Anyway, he wins Chopper over. Chopper had been injured, and he is a doctor himself. And so he basically takes Chopper in. He's kind of like a dad to Chopper, and they have their little adventures and everything like that. And then Dr. Dr. Hiralik, he is on this mission to make cherry blossoms because that killed him from something or whatever. I can't remember. But and so it's just him in these series of experiments trying to make cherry blossoms grow or whatever, and then he gets diagnosed to where he is there. He has some kind of terminal illness or whatever. Chopper goes looking for a mushroom that supposedly heals everything, and there's a mix-up and stuff. Anyway, he ends up giving the mushroom to Dr. Hirlick, and he takes it just because he knows that Chopper's trying to be kind, and there's nothing that he can do about it, whatever. The mushroom is poisonous, and so he ends up passing away. But he goes to Dr. Kureha, who is also Dr. Reem, and asks her to take care of Chopper and take him in and teach him how to be a doctor and stuff because he knows that he's going to die. And so she does, and she ends up taking care of Chopper after Dr. Hirlick passes away. And Chopper has heard, Dr. Hirlick has talked to him about being a pirate and everything like that. So Luffy and Sanji and stuff, they meet Chopper. They absolutely love him. And Chopper's trying to say, hey, no, I can't become a pirate because, listen, I have a blue nose. I'm a monster. And I just love that Luffy, like, eases all of his fears because Chopper sees him, doing his stretchy stuff. And he's like, oh, my God, what is he? And he's like, I'm a monster. Like, dude, I'm a monster, too. So, like, come with us. And so he balks at first, but eventually Chopper decides to go with the Straw Hats and starts his own adventure with them, and it is the cutest thing ever, and I just love him, and every time he's on the screen, I'm like, he's so cute. But anyway, moving on, they finally make it to, like, the outskirts of Alabasta or something like that. Anyway, they stop at this town so they can all, like, re-up, because they're about to be in the desert, so they need, like, food and water and all that kind of stuff. And during this time, there was this guy out there looking for Luffy. And I'm like, this is very mysterious to me. It's like, okay, who is this guy? So finally, they run into each other, this guy and Luffy. And come to find out, it's Ace, Luffy's brother. Now, at this time, I have only watched, of course, I've been through this. But thinking about the live action, I only watched the live action. So I knew that Luffy had one family member. I did not know Luffy had another family member. So this was like a huge surprise to me when I first saw it. And I was like, what? They are complete opposites, okay? But, and Ace absolutely knows this. Luffy is chaotic and rambunctious and adventurous and impulsive. And Ace is kind of not all of that. But he's a badass like his brother. And so, yeah, love them too. And he's like, just basically, thank you guys for taking care of my little brother. I know he can be a handful, but thank you for looking after him and everything like that. So they meet in the desert, and he is on his own mission and just kind of hangs with the Straw Hats until he gets his complete. And at the end, he gives this card to Luffy. He's like, here, this will let you find me in the future. And it's a Viva card. He doesn't know that yet. But Luffy, because this is a plane, it has nothing on it. And he's like, okay. But Luffy was like, well, no, Ace said it was important, so I'm going to keep it. And so, yeah. So they do their whole thing. And then they finally arrive in Alabasta, where Luffy meets these little Dungo things. I don't know. And he ends up defeating them. And so they consider him their master, basically. And he starts training them or whatever. And so they are prepared to fight for him because he's like, well, that's my master or whatever. So and then like there's a whole lot of shenanigans going on in this desert to get Vivi to where she needs to be, because they go to different parts of Alabasta to figure out different things because they're trying to stop the rebel army and the royal army from clashing. Anyway, that is her guide. But Luffy has to give her like some hard truths here because she is expecting to go into this without any casualties, without losing anybody and everything like that. And Luffy is like, this is war. That's not how things work. That's not how it's going to happen. There will be some death, there will be some loss in all of this, and you're just gonna have to be okay with that. And he's like, especially us, you're trying to protect us, but we're your friends, and we have said that we're going to help you, and so if that means that we die in the process, then we die in the process. And she is just not trying to hear that, so she basically is like wailing on Luffy. But she finally has to understand that it's just, this is not about to be all fun and games, this whole adventure here. So either accept our help, or like, what are we doing here? Anyway, I am doing up some extra decorations, and then adding in my little touches at the end to finish off the spread, and then I will be moving into the next week. So we are finally in Alabasta, going from different place to different place. She's trying to find the rebel army, and the rebel army is actually led by her best friend when she was a child. I'm sorry, I am moving all over the place. My chair is just rocking and moving, but whatever. Anyway, led by her best friend from when she was a kid, named Koza. And so she's trying to find the rebel army so she can stop them and explain to them that Crocodile has orchestrated all of this stuff and put all of this into motion, and that the royal army is not doing this. Her dad is not like taking things from the people and stuff like that. So yeah, and so we're moving into the next part of the Alabasta arc. And this is the first arc where it gets really, it's like each arc gets longer and longer, and it's great. I see what Oda like the I just don't even know how to explain like the brilliance of Oda, because he does one thing in one arc, and then like way later in another arc it comes into fruition, or you understand better why something like this, why this happened this way or whatever. It's just top notch. Anyway, moving on. So we're still in Alabasta, and Smoker, the guy that was after Luffy in Logtown, is there, and his people. And so Luffy is like, listen, Luffy is like, I want to fight Crocodile, okay? That's my goal here. I don't care about nothing else that's going on. I came here to kick Crocodile's ass, so let me get to the ass kicking. So he charges into the casino with everybody behind him, and of course it's a trap. They get trapped or whatever, and they are in this cage, and I do believe it's just a few of the Straw Hats this time. Nami, Zoro, Luffy, and Usopp, and then Smoker is in there with them. So they're all trapped down here in this thing that Crocodile and Miss All Sunday have them trapped, this cage trapped in. And Luffy has Devil Fruit powers, and so does Smoker. And so every time they actually touch the cage, it has Sea Prism Stone on it, so it basically acts as the sea, and they can't do anything there. And this something is like, they need the jaws of life to get out of this cage. It is crazy. Now, again, I must say, my boy is clutch. Sanji is there. He's clutch. Him and Chopper are on the outside. Somehow they were not in the whole melee with the guys getting trapped or whatever. So he understands that he needs to help rescue them from this thing. And he ends up calling. Crocodile ends up calling, or somehow they get on the phone with Sanji or whatever. Now, of course, Luffy is about to blurt out his name, and they're like, you need to hush, okay? And so he asks who he is, and he says, I'm Mr. Prince. So that's an alias. That will come up later, okay? And again, like I said, Sanji is clutch. He ends up getting into there with Vivi. Vivi comes to find him and Chopper. Chopper is acting as a decoy. And then Vivi comes to find him, and him and Vivi go back. And woo, I'm sorry. It's a lot. He and Vivi go back to save the crew or whatever. And so Luffy actually asks Zoro to save Smoker, because where they saved him, it was just like the water was flooding the place or whatever, and he knows that Smoker has a devil fruit. And so Luffy is like not that callous or whatever. So he asks Zoro to save Smoker, and so Zoro does. And they're like, well, why did you save him? And he's like, listen, those are orders of my captain. My captain told me to save him. I saved him, okay? That's it. That's all. And so, yeah. So we continue on into Alabasta. And they're getting away, trying to get to Alabarna, I think. Yeah. And then Crocodile takes a swipe he comes out of nowhere. He's like, he also has a devil fruit. Can't remember the name, but it turns him into sand. And he takes a swipe at Vivi, It doesn't work. But Luffy's like, y'all go ahead, I got this. And so he's like, I'm here to kick Crocodile's ass, so I'm about to do that. Yeah, there was no ass kicking. There was no. It was sad, man. Luffy. It was sad. Um, so there was no ass kicking this time. He tried his best, but yeah, as you can see, the silhouette there, he got stabbed through. And I was like, Luffy, no. So yeah, so it did not work out for him that time. However, a couple people came along and helped him out, and so he did survive, thankfully. And so we're getting into Alaberna, and Vivi is trying to stop the rebel army from going from meeting the royal army and starting a war or whatever. And so her and Karu, which is her duck, cutest little thing, um, try to stop them. But of course, there's too much. The whole rebel army is like out on like horses and camels and stuff. All you hear is hoofbeats. You can't hear anything over that. So she's like yelling at Kuza, trying to get him to stop. Nobody can hear her. Nobody can hear you, ma'am. Okay, you need to do better. Get like one of them little shouty the megaphones or something. Like nobody's about to hear you just shouting over all of these horses and camels and stuff. Anyway, so we get to Alaberna, and every straw hat kind of has their own individual fights. Besides Usopp and Chopper, their fight is together, and they are fighting both. They're fighting. Okay, so let me explain this. The Baroque Works agents, how they work. I don't know if I said this in the first one. Excuse me. You have a numbered agent, and then you have the miss agent. So the numbered agent is usually a guy, and the miss, of course, is a girl. So I think they are fighting Mr. Four and Miss Merry Christmas or whatever. So they have to go through and figure out how to fight them and defeat them, and they do eventually. So yeah, kudos to them. And then Sanji ends up fighting Mr. Two, and they are kind of evenly matched because they both use their legs to fight. And then Nami, she asked Usopp. This is another thing I love about Usopp. He is so smart, so intelligent, and he's basically an engineer. She had asked Usopp to build her a weapon, and so he does. Unfortunately, she only she only uses the party trick side until she is able to figure out the major defense mechanism on the thing. But so she finally defeats Miss Double something or other. I can't remember. Excuse me. My nose is getting all weird again. She finally ends up beating Miss somebody or other. And then, of course, we have Zoro in his fight. And he is fighting number one, whose body is steel. So he has to learn how to cut steel in the moment. And this is another thing that I love about Zoro, is he has to sometimes learn actively in a fight. So the people may be like advanced in something from him, something he hasn't learned yet or figured out yet, and he has to actively learn during the course of the fight to be able to defeat who he needs to defeat. So Mr. One, or number one, he is made of steel, so Zoro has to learn how to cut steel in the moment, and of course he does, because he is good like that. And I loved it. So Zoro cuts steel and he defeats Mr. One. And then the whole thing ensues. Like, there's a lot going on in the Alabasta thing. There's this cannon that's supposed to blow up the whole city that they have to find and stop. That was a thing. And then you have Crocodile throwing Vivi off the castle, and then Luffy coming in to scoop her up. And Pell is one of her royal guard that she's known since she was a kid. And he also did a Zoan fruit, devil fruit or whatever. So he actually turns into a falcon, if I'm not mistaken. And so Pale was the one that helped Luffy out in the desert. And so he and Luffy come in and swoop in at the right time and save Vivi from being thrown off that roof. And then Luffy goes in on Crocodile again. He gets a little further this time, still not completely getting him, but he has another chance to get at Crocodile once they go under. It's like they go somewhere under the city because they're looking for a poneglyph, and that's going to be important later with Miss All Sunday. And Crocodile wants to know the information about a weapon from this, thinking that Miss All Sunday would know the information. And when she doesn't, he turns on her and tries to kill her. And Luffy ends up saving her, and eventually he ends up defeating Crocodile. And Crocodile also had the king, so he had Vivi's dad like hemmed up and in not chained, but like he had captured him or whatever. So he ends up saving Miss All Sunday and the king. So when they're coming out, Luffy is spent, okay, from whooping this guy's ass finally. Because this time when he whooped it, okay, whooped it real good. And so the king kind of carries him out of the tomb or whatever it is you want to call it that they were down in under the city. And so yeah, and Luffy is like, listen, he had made a deal with Vivi before. He's like, listen, if we do this, just feed me. You know what I'm saying? She's like, I don't know how I can repay you. He said, I want to eat. Yeah, Luffy always wants to eat. That's his repay. He's like, you can feed me, okay? I'm good with that. And so once everything is settled and getting back into order, they do feast, okay? The whole Straw Hat Crew feast in Alabasta, and it's great and it's wonderful. And they have completed the Alabasta arc. It was a doozy, okay? It's a lot of episodes in this one, way more than, of course, anything we've seen in the East Blue. And so this is the Alabasta arc, and yeah, it was great. And I love that Oda keeps building and building on his arcs. So we get from like a few episodes, so say maybe this arc was 20 or 30 episodes. I mean, eventually we get to arcs that are like almost 300 episodes, and that's a lot of episodes even if they're only like 25 minutes a piece. So yeah, and this is why there's like a ton of One Piece material. This show has been airing for 25 years. I think this is the 26th. And it's just it's an adventure. It's a great story. I love it. I can't get enough of it. As you can see, this is my third or fourth time starting the anime over. I have watched the live action countless times. I can't even tell you how many. So yeah, enjoy this story. If you have any comments or questions about anything, please leave those below. I trust that you all have been safe and well, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye.